welcome back to Flawed and Happy. Glad you're here. Hello. Welcome you, Flawed and Happy. Okay, you guys, so my YouTube channel isn't growing very fast, but that's okay. That's all right. It gives me time to get acquainted with what I'm doing, because honestly, I have no clue. No clue. So, all right, you guys, I told you I was going to do a Chris Watts series on the gold nuggets that we can look for and try to take out of the case. So, my first video is about the friendship that Nicole Atkinson and Shanann had. So if you haven't seen that video, it's the very first video I uploaded yesterday. Today is March 15th, 2019. We'll just put a little timestamp on that just so we all know years down the road, because Lord knows where these videos end up once they're uploaded to YouTube. So yeah, if you're watching this in the future, hello from the past. All right, you guys. So Chris Watts, gosh darn it. Oh, so I'm not going to advertise. That's the name of the brand of the sweatshirt I'm wearing. Yeah, so I put a sticky note on it. I don't know if it's going to stay. I'm trying. Okay, so the case, you know what, you guys, it's been so incredibly heartbreaking. Like, every single aspect of the case, no matter where you look, there's just so much heartache there, you know, and it has gripped so many people, me being one of them. And you know, you guys, I just kind of had to really re-look at the case and remind myself that something good comes out of every single bad situation. Yeah, and I know that's so hard to believe, you know, especially in this situation, in this specific case, because it is so incredibly heart-wrenching. But I honestly have to believe that there's some good there. So I went back and I re-watched and re-listened to some of the interviews, some of the other content creators here on YouTube that have done an extensive, exhaustive research on the case, and they put all the facts out there. They're out there, you guys. They're those YouTube creators. I will tell you what, they were absolutely tremendous. The ones I'm referring to anyway, those ones. And yeah, I'm not even going to get into specifics about who they are, but you can find anything you're looking for. You can. The internet is an amazing place. YouTube is a fabulous platform. You know, there is so much good out there on YouTube, and you can find it if you look for it. You know, if you look for it, just be careful where else you may end up, though. So, let's talk about some of those gold nuggets, shall we? Because I did find some. I did. You know, like, for instance, the very first video, if we learn anything from Shanann and Nicole Atkinson, it's what a majority of us should be striving for when we're looking for friendships. You know, to be there for one another, to support each other, to love each other unconditionally, 100% true acceptance of who we are. You know, that is what we want. So now when we look at some other aspects of, and you guys, I'm going to try to stay on task. I am, but I do like to talk. So who knows where we're going to end up. So I was going to talk about the relationship between Shanann and Chris. And this is going to be a really hard one to talk about. And first and foremost, let me just throw a disclaimer out there. I am not a hater on either side of the road. I'm just going to say that right now. I absolutely do not condone what that man did to his family. Absolutely not. And he is exactly where he deserves to be. Did you hear that? The ice just fell off my house. Oh my God, did you guys hear that? It crashed. Holy smokes, that scared me. I am so sorry for the interruption. You know what, no, there wasn't one yesterday because that was a different video. Anyway, I was in a blizzard yesterday and my house got totally 100% pelted. My whole entire house was covered in this snowpack this morning, and the wind was just whipping and roaring. And so all day today I've just been having these ice chunks and literally chunks sliding down off the house and falling, and oh, it was wicked. It was wicked. So okay, enough about that. I just it did scare me. Okay, so that man is exactly where he needs to be. And he is. He gets to live until somebody gets a hold of him. But that's between him and God now. It is. As difficult and as hard as that is to admit, in order for us to find peace somewhere, at some point, we have to just take where that man is concerned and put it to rest. And just say, you know what? It's between you and God. I'm not God. I am not God. So I'm going to leave the judgment to God. Because I don't feel as though this is the proper place for me to voice much about him, period, honestly. It's between him and God now. So looking at the case and looking through the discovery files, listening to the other YouTube creators, listening to the audio, one thing that just stuck out to me from the very get-go, which was incredibly heartbreaking to me, is Shanann absolutely loved her husband. She loved that man with everything she had. Everything. Right up. Probably right up until moments before he took her life. I mean, it's you can see it in the text messages. You know, that woman. Oh my gosh, when I just think about what the last 6 weeks of her life could have possibly have been like for her, you know, because prior to that, I mean, like, life was good, man. Life was good for the most part. Financial problems, I mean, I don't know. I see a lot of people out there like coming down and just like really criticizing them over their financial problems. Just remember, when you're doing this, 3 more are pointing back. So, you know what? Don't even go there. Don't go there, because you know how many millions of people in this world have financial problems. We don't always disclose them to the people that we know. You know, and sometimes that's just a conversation. I said this yesterday too. It's just a conversation you keep between you and your spouse. You figure out a way to work it out, and then you keep moving along in life. You know, and come on, in this day and age, I mean, look at the economy. Look at how we are. How many people out there, unless, you know, you happen to be born with a silver spoon in your mouth, or maybe, you know, some of your family members, your spouse, whatever, you know, just kind of like really put their nose to the grind and just worked, and you guys built yourself up this nice little plush life, and you don't have to worry about finances. Well, you know what? Then kudos to you. Good job. You know, I don't know, there's many different walks of life out there. And I'm just getting a little tired of seeing so many people coming down on them for having financial issues, for being in a bankruptcy. You know what, I'm just gonna get back now, because see, I already went off topic, and I'm really good at that. So I'm gonna try to hang in there on topic. The relationship that Shanann and Chris had, you guys, I didn't know them personally. I don't know what it was like behind closed doors. Sometimes within relationships, it's not always what it appears to be on the outside. And when you look back at the social media content that was put out there while Shanann was alive, it appears as though they were really living the American dream. You know, and I honestly do believe that is why this case has engulfed so many people worldwide is because how could this happen? How could this happen? Look at how perfect they looked. You know, the beautiful family, the beautiful wife, the handsome husband, the beautiful little children, a brand new baby on the way, the nice home. You know, everything about their life just appeared to be the American dream that so many people strive for. Or was it? Or was it? And that's what I want to visit about. According to the social media, they were an exceptional family. And I'm not going to say that they weren't. Because, I mean, look at the interviews. You got to go back to the facts of the case. Every single person that they interviewed could not believe this man could do that. And they didn't believe they had it in him. You know, look at Shanann's parents. They had no idea he could do such a thing. No idea at all. You know, if you listen to Frankie's, Shanann's brother, Frankie, if you listen to his interview, you're going to hear him say, I feel bad for him. He was referring to Chris, his brother-in-law. He felt bad for Chris in his interview after he discovered that his sister and 2 nieces and his brand new nephew, who wasn't even here yet, were already gone. They were gone. What does that say? That tells me that the family wholeheartedly accepted Chris for who and what he was. And they accepted Shanann for who and what she was. You know, and that is an amazing thing when it comes to a family dynamic, a family unit, is when the people, the family members can just be who they are. And I believe that when it came to the relationship of Shanann and Chris, Shanann was able to be who she was. And Chris was happy with who she was. Chris got to be who he was, I think, for the most part. Now, you'll see instances within the discovery that kind of say a little bit differently. There was a text message where Shanann was conversing back and forth with a friend, and she had just simply made a comment about Chris saying, he can't even hang a picture. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you, when it comes to us women, I don't know, sometimes we can get a little anal about how stuff is in the house. You know, I guess I've never really been one like that a whole lot. I mean, sure, I want my decor where I want my decor, but at the same time, I mean, my husband lives here too. You know, and him and I, we have some of the similar tastes, but not all. So, but when I married this man, like, I was over here and this is all me, and then he's over here and this is all him. And now we got married and we meshed together. You know, and we had to blend and mesh everything together. I brought kids with me. Shanann and Chris made their own. You know, my husband and I made one. But, yeah, I mean, we have a blended family. And so when I look at my aspect of the way I live compared to the way Shanann and Chris lived, I can see differences. I can see quite a few differences. But I also see similarities. And, you know, and my husband and I, we visited quite a bit about this case. He had no choice, because I would just like tell him, you know, oh my God, this is what they were saying today, you know, and my husband, he doesn't want to talk to me about it anymore. So here I am. I look at, I couldn't help but to analyze and look at my own relationship when I started looking at this case, because, you know, you get to looking at this case and you hear about the details and you start finding out the facts of this case, and you're like, how in the hell did something like this happen? How did this happen? And why? You know, I don't get it. How can a parent do that to his own children? How can a husband do that to his own wife? But, you know, We hear about those types of instances where spouses kill other spouses in a heat of rage, in a heat of passion. But I think it was a little more than that with this case. And we'll talk about that later. It won't be now. But the relationship between Shanann and Chris. So, like I said, I don't know what it was like. All I can go by is what's in the documents. The discovery file has a lot in there, a whole lot more than what I wanted to read or even look at. Lots of other YouTube creators out there. I cannot stress enough how much a wonderful job a lot of them have done. And, you know, if you're not sure about this case, yeah, just start listening to some of them older videos, because they're good. I mean, they really discuss it. So, the gold nugget that we can look at with Shanann and Chris, the biggest one that I seen was communication. How important it is to communicate. I'm not going to say whether or not they did or didn't. I'm just going to say that knowing what we know now with the release of the February 18th interview that Chris did from, you know, they're calling it the prison confession. But he was not communicating with Shanann. He even said himself, he just did as he was told. Well, you know what? Everybody needs to have a voice in life. Everybody. And please don't take it as though, like, I'm siding with him. Oh, God, please don't. What the guy did was absolutely pure evil. And I'm not siding with nobody. Sorry about that. I got a phone call, so I had to pause it and take it. So, was talking about Shanann and Chris and the communication, and everybody needs to have a voice. So, this is the tough part, because, you know, there's so many different aspects that are at play within a relationship. And when we talk about the relationship between a husband and wife, fortunately and unfortunately, you have the family dynamics that also are involved. And that's the tough part. And, you know, there was so many different aspects about this particular case that I was able to relate with. Shanann had a mother-in-law that didn't think a whole lot about her from the very beginning. I know how that feels. Shanann comes from a family of, I'm going to assume, strong women, just based off of the fact that her mother is a strong woman. I can see that in her mom. And in Frankie's interview, I caught the comment that he said, Shanann and his mother, their mother, they bickered quite a bit. Strong women do that. And I can relate with Shanann on that aspect to an extent. I come from a family of strong women as well. A lot of strong women. And I like to perceive and think of myself as being a strong woman, but I'm not exactly like Shanann was at all. Voice-wise. I can hold my own. We'll just put it that way. I can hold my own ground pretty well. But I'm also submissive to my husband in the sense where when my husband is home and he's in the house, I allow him to wear the pants. Yes, I allow him. So, yeah, I don't know. You know, and that's where, you know, when it comes to these relationships, I mean, my gosh, if you're in a relationship and if you're truly happy, then there's nothing broke, right? Don't fix it. But obviously, deep down inside, Chris wasn't 100% happy long before the other one came into the picture. And to the point where he couldn't even hang up a picture. I don't know what he wanted to hang up or where, but it just, it wasn't an option for him. And, you know, who's to say, I did catch in Chris's interview where he made the comment that he didn't even know there was any problems until the other woman came into the picture. So when the other woman came into the picture, we don't really fully know what was all being discussed on all of their little conversations, because if you remember in her interview, she talks about how they talked all the time. There was a lot of conversations. A lot. Now, you heard how much she likes to do this in the interview. I mean, that girl was just a yapping. I could about imagine how she was yapping to Chris. So, you know, when you think of it from that regard, and you look back, and now we have that prison confession, and we've all heard it, you know, maybe we're still hearing it, maybe we're rehearing it. I had to listen to it twice, and it was devastating the first time around. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't absorbing. And the second time, oh gosh darn it, you know, I'm trying to be a sponge and I'm trying to absorb, but it's just so difficult to hear so much of it, and I'm just like, oh, why am I doing this to myself? But here I am on my own YouTube channel now. So anyway, just talking about, you know, what was she yapping about to him in his ear? You know, and now he's feeling like, oh my God, she's really into me. Wow, listen to her. You know, oh, did you hear what she said? Oh, that just made me feel so good. Wow. You know, and so now he's feeling like he can maybe trust her, and she's doing all this yapping, and he's doing all this listening, and now he's probably like, I'm gonna talk to her about this. Just because I feel like I can trust her. I feel like there's a bond between us. You know, she's easy to talk to, and I'm just going to share this with her. And now he starts sharing. Because we all know she lied from the get-go. She said she didn't know right away he was married. Yeah, she did. Yeah, she did. We all know that now. Yes, she did. So, you got to just take whatever she said in her interviews with a grain of salt, because we all now know that, and I'm sure we all knew anyway, she was lying. But we all know now. We know. If you ever watched this, The Other Woman, we know you lied. You lied about so much. And so now, because you're not brave enough to come forward and be like, hey, this is what I got to say about the deal. We all still have to speculate. So we're speculating. All right. So getting back to what they were, you know, in the beginning, you know what it's like. Remember when you met your significant other, your spouse, you know, gosh, and butterflies were just like floating around, and you're hearing everything you want to hear, and he or she, whatever, is just makes you feel so incredibly important, you know. And I'm going to tell you right now, after 8 years of marriage and with kids in the house, how important do you really feel? Think about that. Just think about that. You're coming up on 8 years of marriage. You got kids running through the house. You got some financial stress that's, you know, on top of both your shoulders, and it, you know, those butterflies ain't gonna be there like they were in the very beginning. That's why it's so important. It's so important to keep those butterflies alive. You have to work at that. You know, it's easy to go out and meet somebody else. I mean, it's fun, right? It's fun getting to know somebody else. It's fun being able to discover somebody else's likes and dislikes. It's fun letting somebody else know who you are and what you are a little bit at a time. Remember how fun that was when you first got with your significant other, you got to remember that's what Chris and the other woman were doing. They were there. You know, they were at that point where it was fun. It was fun. You know, they didn't have the reality of kids running around at their toes. You know, they didn't have the reality of, this is our home, these are our bills, this is how we pay them, here is our budget, who's going grocery shopping? No, because they were too busy just being into each other. So it was fun. You know, get real. Life is fun. Sure it is. Life is very fun. But it's not going to be fun all the time. No. And what are you going to do when you hit those boulders in life where it's no longer fun and reality hits you and all of a sudden you got a real life issue directly in front of you and you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this? You know, if you're stuck constantly in that beginning of that brand new relationship phase where you think it's all about being fun, you're not going to know how to hit. You're not going to know how to deal when those boulders of life just like hit you smack dab in the face, you know, and sometimes those pebbles all trickle down first, gives you that warning sign. And I believe, you know, looking at Shanann and Chris's situation from the standpoint of documents. Now, I mean, keep that in mind. That's just like a glimpse. I mean, I can't even say the window's open to peer into the house. That small of a glimpse. You know, that's all we got to go by. And honestly, it's probably none of our business, period, to even be looking at it. But because of the severity of the case and because Shanann and Bella, Cece, and Nico have just kind of found a place into my heart for not ever knowing me, it may not be my business, but it definitely affected me. So I am looking at, you know, what can the rest of us take out of this? If there's anything that we learn from Chris and Shanann's situation, is to just always please communicate. Always please communicate. Always look at your spouse when you're not happy and say, hey, babe, you know what? I'm really not feeling very good about, and whatever that is. And tell them why. Tell them why. Because if you don't go out there and you don't directly tell people how you are being affected by something they're saying or doing, they're not going to know, because we're not mind readers. You know, and that's the thing. Chris didn't tell her. He didn't tell her. So here Shanann is, you know, she's just waking up every day and she's just like going about life thinking, you know, she's happy with her life. You know, she is. She's well aware of the financial issues, and we all know she was working her tail off to try to change it. You know, we all know that. We can see that. You know, you can look back and there's she left so much of us for us to see. You know, so communication is the key. In any relationship at all. Any. And I believe Shanann knew that. I do. You know, but it's got to be a two-way street. It's got to be. You know, if you have you and your spouse and only one of you is communicating and the other is not, only so much is going to be able to get done. Only so much is going to be understood. Only so much is going to be absorbed. And for the person that is doing the communicating, and when they're communicating to the other and the other is just like Chris, yeah, okay, sure, yeah, I'll do that. Okay, sure. The communicator thinks everything's fine. So if you take anything from this video, just pause for a second and take a look at the current relationship that you're in. And if you're not in a relationship that, where you got a sexual partner, look at the relationships around you. The relationships you have with your mom, your sister, your brother, your nieces, your nephews, your aunts, uncles, grandparents, whoever, your friends, because every relationship should be based on communication. You shouldn't have to be in fear of something that you're going to say is going to offend and hurt somebody else. As long as you're not setting out to intentionally hurt somebody, don't be afraid to say it. You have a voice. Every single one of us has a voice, and we have the ability to be able to talk about the things that make us unhappy, that don't quite sit right with us, that maybe hurt our feelings. But one thing we don't have the right to do is to bash somebody else, to call them names, and to try to deflect from them when they're trying to do the same with us. We don't have the right to do that. So listen when those people come to you as well. And I'm speaking from my heart right now. I speak from my heart all the time. But this one really hits home for me very deeply because, I'm not going to say I have a Chris Watts in my family because that's really spooky. But in a roundabout way, I do. And it's not a he, it's a she. And this young lady, she was, I'm going to say was, she's still alive, but I'm going to say was because I don't know if she's changed or not. But she was that yes person. She was the agreeable one. If I went to her and said, blah, 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 it was, okay, yes, all right, sure. When deep down inside, she had a flame burning and she was upset. And I'm just going to drop a little bomb here. I'm talking about one of my own children. I'm talking about one of my own daughters. And when I would tell her and direct her to do something, we all know teenagers are very difficult people to deal with to begin with. But that's exactly how she was. Instead of saying, Mom, I don't want to do the dishes right now because I want to do this or do that. It was just, okay. Yeah. So as time's going on, eventually something within her erupted. It erupted. And I shouldn't even say this, but I'm going to say this. So one day I'm zooming the internet and I was talking on the phone to a friend of mine and I'm zooming the internet at the same time. And I think it was Facebook, maybe. I was scrolling through Facebook and I seen this headline that some parent was murdered by their own teenage child. I keep scrolling and here's another story. A brother and a sister had murdered their, I don't know if it was one parent or two, and I'm like, wow, I keep scrolling, and finally I tell this person that I'm talking to on the phone, I'm like, gosh, holy shit, I think I'm lucky to be alive, and I'm like, wow, them teenagers are getting rough, and I was just joking, that's just kind of how I am, but you look at instances like Chris Watts. I mean, he went an entire lifetime of not saying what he really wanted to say. He went an entire lifetime of just, yes, okay, sure, all right, and my God, look at what that does to a person's psyche, man. I mean, the guy just flipped his flipping lid, affected so many people's lives, took his whole entire family out. Now, I'm not saying everybody we know that's, yeah, sure, all right, is going to do such a thing. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, be the type of person If you got something to say, and if you don't 100% agree with something, then don't be afraid to voice it. Just voice it. And if that person wants to deflect you, and if they want to just like bash you, and if they want to just, shut you down and shut you up and not listen, you best be thinking whether or not that person should be in your life to begin with, because I'm going to tell you right now, if people 100% love you, they care about you, they trust you, they value you, they're going to want to hear what you got to say too. And they're going to respect you for what you have to say. And they're going to respect you enough to listen. And so when I say, like, I don't want to say my daughter is like Chris Watts, because I mean, that's like way the frick over there in the whole nother orbit, man. No, only in the regards of not sharing with me what she truly felt. She was like that, and unfortunately today I don't have a relationship with that daughter. She ended up walking out on me, and the basis of her walking out was 17 years old. She wanted her freedom, which translated to I want to drink and party with all of my friends, and I got friends where their parents drink at home, so they got access to alcohol. Her dad has whiskey wherever, so she's drinking her dad's whiskey, and so she wanted her freedom, which translated to I want to drink. And she wanted to drive to school, yeah, she wanted to drive to school. She didn't want to have to take the school bus. But I don't know, we live so far out in the middle of nowhere that, it's just not feasible to be able to drive that many miles round trip, anyway. But at her dad's, she's got no choice but to drive to school because there's no school. I mean, there's no busing service there. So 17 years old, believe me, 17-year-olds, I'll tell you what, I can remember being 17. Those are difficult years, extremely, extremely difficult. And I'm going totally off track now because I wanted to talk about the relationships that were within this case. But it's so hard for me to stay on track because so much I can relate to myself. I can find certain aspects of my own personal life, like a small pebble inside the case. And I'm like, wow, I know what that's like. I know how it is to deal with somebody like that. So now you getting back to the case, those last 6 weeks of Shanann's life, I honest to God cannot even imagine. I mean, she put it out there in text messages for us to see. So, I mean, we get a glimpse. Once again, we get this glimpse of what it was like for her. This woman was scared. She, in the end, was miserable. She was devastated. She was hurt. She was confused. Why? Why? All because a man couldn't be man enough and look at his wife and say, this is what I'm not happy with. This is what I want to do. Had he done that, Sandy and Frank and Frankie wouldn't be going through what they're going through right now. I almost know that for a fact. And the reason why I say that is because Shanann had the utmost respect for her husband. Some people may disagree, but I've watched some of her own personal videos as well. It was extremely hard to do. But I kind of felt as though I had to get to know her a little bit. And she loved her husband. She loved her family. She loved her life. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, people come down on her for, you know, being out there on social media. So what? So what? They're her accounts. You know, people didn't have to watch them if they didn't want to. You know, if people don't like what I have to say, well, you don't have to watch. You know, you don't have to subscribe to my page. You don't have to watch my videos. It doesn't matter to me. You know, but to come down on a woman that lives so far from her immediate family. I mean, do you guys realize, you know, just how grateful they are for all of that content that she left behind? Because I can about imagine how grateful they are that she put her life out there. She's not here anymore. So if you take anything from this video, please take the communication part. You know, it's so important that we all communicate with each other. You know, whether it be our lovers, whether it be our parents, our children, just always communicate. You know. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to Flawed and Happy. I'm glad you are here. And I'll come back again. I don't know when, but this is just going to be, this is a hobby channel. All right, you guys. Glad you're here.